What is going on, YouTube people? Sorry about that. I'm just getting everything situated and set up. Uh wow. Off center ends, and literally 30 seconds later, Ravel tweets collectors is acquiring SGC. Um I had heard this earlier in the evening. I knew this was coming. I just didn't know when. Uh I was not expecting it to break tonight. And here we sit. So the wild part is, and I'm gonna do a share screen here real quick. Present share screen. Which screen do I want? Which screen do I want? I want this one. This one share. So what I don't understand is the both brands will live separately that Ravel has up on here. See right here, both brands will live separately. That yeah, so I was trying to record a video for this, and news kept coming, and I was like, well, just screw it. I'm just going live. Just going live, and I'm just gonna talk about it. Screw it. Sorry, I'm just reading something off screen. So that's the part I don't understand is the both brands living separately. So I have a ton of questions around that. I was originally recording my video for tomorrow about this, and I was like, what does this mean for SGC slabs? What does this mean if you already have cards at SGC? And now, literally as I was in the middle of recording the video, Ravel tweets out both companies are going to continue to exist. So I don't know what that means. The problem here is that we need more details. We need more details on how this is going to work. I believe we're probably going to get some sort of formal announcement tomorrow on how all this situation is going to break down. I had heard like a year ago that SGC was air quote available. I think CGC made a run at him, but the asking price was too expensive. And now here we sit today. But yeah, my big question here is what does this mean for what does both brands will live separately mean? I just don't understand how that works. That's the part I don't understand. Unless it's just for the time, is this one of those things where it's like we're going to keep it separate for a little bit, but as time wears on, they'll eventually be absorbed in? I don't know. So what I would really love to hear from in the comments, and if you are, I hate PSA and I'm only grading with SGC because I despise PSA. SGC is my savior. How do you feel about this? Even if SGC remains as its air quote own separate company. I mean, I don't think they could avoid monopoly accusations anyways. I mean, it's near impossible to to prove that stuff. Is this is does CGC pick up the scraps of the never PSA people? Sorry, there's like multiple, there's so many things going on right now. I have multiple monitors. There's things randomly popping up on all of them. Um, but yeah, the part that I don't understand is this lives separately. That's the part I don't get. Because why would you want them as their own separate entity? Is it literally just to not have to deal with the SGC stuff? Yeah, cranky card guy. Like, what are the? This is my number one thing. Is what are the SGC folks gonna do? Like the hardcore SGC people gonna do that said never PSA. I mean, it makes why does it make no sense? Who does it not make sense for? SGC was the second biggest player in the space. They were available. I don't think it was so. In the video that I was recording, that does not exist now. I'm just gonna wait until we get full details tomorrow and react to that. I figured, screw it. I'm literally sitting in front of everything, just coming off a live. I'll just spin this up and go live. Um, I had talked about crossovers. I don't think it would be an automatic crossover because the grading standards are different between the two companies. So it wouldn't be an auto cross. Maybe they would be a little bit more lenient on an SGC 10 crossing over. I don't know. I mean, sure. Listen, like I get what you're saying, Maximus. Unless they're rebranding, nothing changes. Sure, sure. But there is a segment of people, a lot of SGC, I shouldn't say a lot, a decent portion of SGC's business is built around I don't want to grade with collectors slash PSA. And whether they're called PSA or not, collectors is now going to own SGC. So people are going to throw some transitive property nonsense in there and be like, well, how can I do this? How can I grade with them still when they're part of the evil empire now? And this isn't going to be like PSA is going to change anything to SGC standards. I mean, PSA is PSA. I just don't know if I see that. The whole separate company thing makes this weird. That's the part that makes it weird. I see. I don't. Maybe this finally legitimizes SGC slabs a little. To me, this feels like we need to buy time to integrate all this. So we're going to keep them separate companies for now. This definitely just super hot take. This feels more like a for now thing, like a dot, dot, dot on the end of this. That's what this makes me think of. Yeah, but I don't think most people are going to view it that way. They're just going to view it as it's all going to collectors. Yeah. Now the IG chat. I don't. So StreamYard has an option to stream the Instagram, and I'm doing that as well. But it doesn't incorporate the chat from Instagram into the main chat thing. So I got to look at two different chats. Yeah, but I still don't think CB Sports Cards in IG says if it stays how PWCC stayed when Fanatics bought them, then it should be good. Here's the thing, though. 2 years from now, I don't think it's PWCC. It's going to be Fanatics Marketplace. That's kind of what I see happening here. They acquire SGC, they keep them a separate company, and then figure out from there how to eventually fully absorb them. I don't disagree with the 80% number, Vintage Sports Shack, but this definitely changes some stuff. They're not, I'm telling you right now, Ian, they're not taking anything from SGC. PSA is not going to roll out a gold label. They will never have a grade higher than a PSA 10. And they are not, PSA does not want a 9.5 grade. I can tell you that right now. PSA does not want a 9.5 grade, and PSA does not want a higher grade than 10. They're the most dominant grading company in the world because they don't have a complex grading system. I think long term, you're right, Cowboys fan. Yeah, this is how Peter finally gets the set registry he's been talking about. Peter wins. He was wanting the set registry forever. Yeah, I think I 100% agree, Nick Nack. Sorry, I'm not ignoring them. Like, there's literally 47 things happening at once right now. Wild times. And I am I feel like now I know what Dustin feels like with chat. Now I understand. Yeah, no more disruptive SGC pricing specials. I mean, this is the $1 million question. We don't know enough yet. We don't know what this both brands will live separately thing is. The only side winner here, and I've seen people talk about this in the Instagram chat. I'm not ignoring you guys. It's just harder for me to keep up with the IG chat. The never PSA people are now going to have to turn to CGC. If you are a screw collectors universe and everything that they stand for, I want nothing to do with you. You basically have to go to CGC because Becket, I mean, what are we talking about? That's not even like a real thing. Let's get real here. Not to pay for auto grades on pack pulled autos. It's not even close to a monopoly. I mean, it's not even close. So the problem is, this is what I've always heard. Beckett's just like nearly impossible to acquire. It has something to do with the way that the companies build into the rest of all their nonsense. It's not just like very easily to be spun off. I see you back there, Carlos. I'll get you in a second. Are they going to let you cross over SGC to PSA slabs? I mean, I don't think so, since they're going to be two separate companies. All right, we're going to bring in special guest Carlos.
So you're a jerk for going live. How dare you? And I hope you praise the content, guys. I didn't catch the whole thing. I caught a couple minutes.
I didn't even have time. My mind was racing 1,000 miles a minute.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
Well, this went from me going, me trying to record a video to get up as fast as possible, and then Revell saying they're going to be both separate companies, and then that blew my mind to a whole nother level.
Mm.
And then I was literally just sitting here because we literally ended off centered, and 30 seconds later, Revell tweeted this out. Like, so I'm like, screw it. I'm just firing up the live stream.
Nice.
I'm just
I
firing.
actually think so. I caught the part where where it was blowing your mind to keep the two separate brands, but I actually think like at the end of the day they're going to look at operational efficiency, but it's not the worst idea in the world to have quote unquote Florida like there is something to be said for that whole tuxedo and separate branding thing. And it would allow them to do something where they would have a different value proposition. It's like a beer company owning multiple beer brands. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, to me, it just feels like we need more time to figure this out. And I guess it could just be, hey, we're going to try this and see if it works. And then it doesn't, yeah, we'll just fold them in. Later,
I just don't. I just don't think you're going to take the SGC graders because here's the thing: if you tried to do we'll absorb them. PSA's brand has a certain cachet with it, but at the same time, there are some people who will be anti-PSA forever. But they could probably get around the idea. They could live with themselves if it was a PSA owned SGC, but they just made it more efficient. And they just said, okay, but you guys have some vintage graders that are really good at it. So you're good to go. And you want the $15 service? We got that. And you want the quick turnaround? Have at it.
Yeah, I think they try that, but I don't know. It just feels like weird to have like this separate grading company that's still part of collectors. I think that's the key thing. Are the never PSA people gonna be able to get over the fact that it's collectors backed, even though it's still going to say SGC on the label, at least for now?
I guess it just depends on whether they think. Here's what I would be thinking. If I'm collectors, my question would be, I'm assuming SGC is profitable. If they're already operating profitably, could you do something to maintain that or make it even better? And then have that separate brand, because the people that have a bunch of SGC slabs, if you suddenly made them PSA and then swapped it over, they're not gonna love that.
Yeah, and that's, are they acquiring them just for the extra facility and stuff? If they were, that would be if they were going to incorporate them in the PSA.
And SGC hasn't. It's not like SGC started their company 5 years ago. SGC goes back to the 90s.
They've been around forever.
So they've been around forever, and there's tons and tons of cards in their slabs. So like, do you throw away again? We joking about it infinitely. If they bought Tag has no legacy whatsoever other than mockery. So that's one thing. But SGC literally has a long-standing track record and decades of existing, and probably a couple of million slabs. So it's like, you can't just treat it like, oh yeah, well, we'll just absorb it into PSA brand, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Tomorrow we'll be telling when we get like a formal announcement of exactly how all this nonsense is going to work.
Yeah, but my only argument though is I'm saying, number one, SGC, from everything I see, was at least a profitable operation. So it's not like it was but they have an owner who probably, like, look, money talks. You make the right offer. It's not like he's going to live forever. But then you go to the other side of it. It's like, there is a separate brand there. There is a reason. There's a reason why you can. I use the beer company example. There's a reason why you got the beer conglomerates. But even though instead of just force feeding you one beer, they've got this version and they got that version, and it's still owned by the same parent company.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be crazy. I just wrapping my mind, or the two separate companies thing really blew my mind. That's the part that really it clears up a lot of questions, because like you said, it would be so messy to try to figure out, like, what happens to SGC slabs? Do they cross over? Are they more lenient on crossovers? What if I have a 9.5? What if this, that, or the other thing?
Yeah. And I think that one of the points there is big time vintage cards. Yeah. So if you're an SGC guy who paid $1 million for Honus Wagner in an SGC slab, oh yeah, cross it over. Sure. Yeah. I don't think so. They're not going to be into.
Perk asked what happens to Peter, and my joke earlier was, well, I guess Peter finally has a set registry.
I think he can join the index, and then we get a second podcast episode. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they've been talking about PSA or SGC's been saying, look at it now. I'm already screwing it up. SGC's been talking about building a set registry forever. Well, they just got a set registry. What if they combined it together? What if you could put SGC cards on your PSA set registry now with the
Well,
PSA?
the only person I'm worried about, I'm not worried about Pete. What I'm worried about is Bobbles. I might have to do a wellness check. I might have to do a wellness check.
In the Discord or not?
I might have to do a wellness check. You know, we were literally, and funny enough, we were literally talking about set registry just earlier this week. So it's like, all right, that's it. I might have to do a wellness check.
Yeah. Oh, Bobbles is alive in group.
All right, this is good.
He is alive in group. We'll see if we can get. I'll message Bobbles. We'll see if Bobbles can make an appearance on. I sent him the link. We'll get the owner of SGC's information on this.
Well, now we know at least he's got money, so he can invite us to a good dinner. You know, we can have bottle service. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I guess dinner on Bobbles at the National this year.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely, of course.
To me, you know, Patty's cards asking why would they buy. You know, Carlos made the case for why they would be separate. To me, this feels like we're buying them. We're gonna keep them separate for now, and then eventually I could see them going away. That's my general angle on it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not married to the take, but if I was to make a case for why you would, like I said, the problem is it is a long-standing brand. It'd be really tough just to be like, yeah, we'll just cast it aside, because I do think some of those folks would literally be like, yeah, we're not doing business with you anymore. We don't want to do business with PSA. So if you say SGC's gone, then we're gone.
I mean, it just depends though. Like PSA could be looking at this and saying, hey, you know, they just built Tokyo, they just built New Jersey.
Yeah.
Maybe they know what it costs us. They know exactly how much it costs to spin up another grading facility from scratch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe they looked at SGC and was like, and I have no idea what these numbers are. Let's just call it 50 million. I have no idea. I'm literally just making numbers up. Oh, okay, cool. We could buy the full grading facilities. It's fully staffed. They already have graders hired, and it's going to cost us X amount of money. It just cost us triple that to build out New Jersey and find all these graders and hire all these people. Sure, we'll just buy that, and then we just have another grading facility, and it's already fully staffed and fully operational. Yeah, we got to switch some equipment out and whatnot, and bring some. Everyone sit through some training and services and some documents on how we want to do things, and scrub 9.5 from your brain, and get tucks out of your vocabulary. But it could just be as simple as that. Like, I get your point of, oh, they're a profitable business. We could buy them and continue to make money on it on the side as like a collector's holdings thing. But to me, it feels more like that's cheaper than us just doing it ourselves. So we'll just buy there and slap a new coat of paint on it. We're just not going to do it right now because we don't want everyone's panties to get that twisted on day one.
I just wonder though, like, so in all seriousness, I just wonder if it wouldn't be worth it to have like almost like your in-house boutique brand and have the SGC be that for like $15 grading, while PSA, bumps it up to around 20 and above. And that way you've always got that option. And then you don't have to commit PSA to it.
Yeah. I just don't think they'd want to split it like that. They'd all want it under one brand, one label. It's just not their style.
Yeah. No, like I said, I'll repeat. I don't know if it comes off in my tone. I'm not married to the steak. But I can make an argument for where like I could see some value in having that. Again, because it's been such a long legacy brand now, I could see some value in hanging on to it.
Yeah, I mean, Dan nails it right here. The CGC CSG thing on having like the two separate sub companies.
Sure, that's fair.
And how that really kind of bit them in the butt early on.
It's a fair point. I just think though, because CGC and CSG was still kind of the same, under the same umbrella from the beginning, SGC, like I said, had its own legacy separate. That's the big differentiator for me. But it's a fair point.
Yeah, and the Discord that we're in is chatting about, there is now no other option for vintage grading, really. Like you never sent vintage cards to Becket to begin with. and CGC really doesn't have the rep on the vintage side of things. They have the graders for it, like Andy knows his stuff when it comes to vintage for sure. They just don't have the reputation on it. So now both major vintage graders are owned by collectors.
So you're saying
hold on.
you're saying you
Wait.
don't want to give this go?
I don't want to interrupt you. We have the owner, president, and operator
very good.
of SGC grading.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Do you need blink if you are under duress?
I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on. It's 11:20. I was about ready to crash because I'm an old man and stuff, and all of a sudden I got messages and Facebook group and everything blowing up. I don't even know what's going on.
So you see, Bobbles, my favorite part is this is going obviously Neo was beside himself. And again, I want to make sure we praise the content gods appropriately as we should. But I know I sent a text message to someone maybe related to PSA, and I'm like, I assume you're asleep, but tomorrow we're gonna have words. I made it abundantly clear we're gonna have some words, sir.
No, I was about to be going to sleep, but Facebook groups started going off, Messenger started going off.
So as the resident SGC, we'll put this cap on you whether you want to wear it or not. As the representative of the SGC fanboy, Bobbles, what has been? We're 20 minutes into this. Have people collectively lost their minds? Do they not even know what to do with themselves? Are they burning SGC slabs in a funeral pyre? Like what's happening on the SGC fronts?
I think the initial reaction is confusion. I don't think people know like exactly what's going on yet. I mean, I see Robel's post that said both brands will still be separate. It's a little confusing because now you got competition living under the same umbrella. How's it all going to play out? But I think there's questions like, how is this going to work? Like, I think I'm going to have a busy day tomorrow, is what it seems. I have an order that actually is delivered down there, but hasn't been checked in yet. So this is even more interesting because I have an order that's like in limbo, and I don't even know how to tell people to proceed on it now. So
Are you going to be concerned when you get back your order and it's like half PSA slabs and half SGC slabs? It's going to be a little awkward, when you're getting like half and half.
It's in a tux, but it's got a red, white, and blue label on it.
Exactly. We put a PSA label on tux.
That was my initial thought. The red label with the black border. And
that yet, then what are we really doing?
Yeah, I had heard that there was an acquisition. I did not know. Let's rewind. I had a conversation with my rep Monday, and I actually told him to give Peter crap because I had texted Peter Sunday night and he never responded to me. And my rep, sorry, computer's dinging for Facebook, but he said, don't take offense. Peter's got something going on right now, and there was no way in hell he was going to respond to you. And I was like, oh, there's some kind of fire burning. I didn't know what it was. I didn't ask any questions. And then I had heard a rumor that there was acquisition, but I had no clue who. This was not on my bingo card. I would have thought Fanatics or one of the other ones. PSA was not on my bingo card.
But I always thought it would be CGC. I thought for years that the video that I would be making would be CGC Acquires SGC. And I know that they came. I'm pretty sure that they came pretty close.
I actually thought Fanatics is to add that pillar because that was the one they were missing. And out of the Canada, because I remember having this exact conversation, and the conversation was, if Fanatics bought a grader, who would it be? And well, PSA is out. CGC doesn't need it. They've got enough money on their own. And really the only candidate left from like Becket, like no. And even they've got their own messy situation anyway. They're under this umbrella company as well. So it's a messy situation and the brand equity isn't there. The only one that was really left, which has an owner that you could actually negotiate with, was SGC.
Yeah. And let's kind of talk about this for a quick second, because a lot of people in chat are like saying Becket to Fanatics. Why wasn't Becket this, Becket that? Becket is in, and I don't necessarily understand the full back end of it, but the way it's been described to me multiple times is basically what Carlos just said from people in the know. is that the back end, the way Becket is intermingled with its parent company group investment thing, whatever you want to call it, makes them almost nearly impossible to be acquired. And two, I think Becket is a way bigger mess than we even all realize. Like, I don't know that you'd want to acquire Becket. You're basically acquiring the name, and you would literally have to burn it down and start from scratch. So you're basically starting a brand new grading company. You're just buying them strictly for the name. So Becket is not the savior here. At this point, I think if you're talking about Fanatics, I honestly think they would, rather than acquiring a grader to kind of keep the separation of church and state, that they would probably just be as likely to just partner with PSA and say they are our formal partner, but two separate things.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because I wanted to make sure I had it right. If memory serves me, the parent company that owns Becket, the founder and the chairman is in prison.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a problem. That could be an issue. Is he going to use his one phone call to negotiate a deal for you to buy Becket? Is that the play? Or maybe he's got other things on his mind.
Yeah. That's definitely not.
A little easier to reach out to SGC's owner. I'm just saying, it's a little easier to get him on the phone and have a call.
We got him right there. He's right
exactly.
there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, at least you can reach him. So it's a little easier to make that to work out a deal. I'm just saying.
I really thought with the little relationship that SGC had with Fanatics, with the Topps deals, Bowman deals, all of that was the one that was in play, that I thought maybe Fanatics, bought them. I know, Neil mentioned CGC. That one, even as it would make sense, since there was previous history there, and the company used to be owned by CGC, I never felt that would happen, because for anything else, I would say that the owner, Dave, like, he would have probably been asking a really hefty mint for it, to say, here, you can have it back, what I've created. Who knows if they would have paid it or not. The Becket Fanatics thing is interesting, since isn't like most of Fanatics operations down in Texas, where Becket is. I mean, logistically, it could potentially work out, but Becket is a mess. But yeah, this was not on my bingo card, and I am very curious what it means for the future, really. Even working separately, it's confusing. Like, I mean, it would be like Ford buying Chevy, and then, like, it just is weird. It wasn't expected.
I think the fun part is if basically, if the other companies now also get their minds around acquisition mode, because like I said, Beckett's got his own problem. Like, exactly what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, is that's the problem. And the brand equity on Becket is really bad. So at this point, now what I'm curious about, honestly, and kind of playing into what I said a little bit earlier, is what happens if you've got, right now they'll run them as separate companies based on the Revell tweets. So fair enough. But obviously there's going to be a lot of folks who are SGC 4 lifers that, well, now they're part of the evil empire. So, they're not going to want a part of that. So do they go running to CGC? Is this it? Is this the moment CGC gets a little traction?
I would like to say the whole reason I started using SGC was because of my experience with PSA. So I will say I have a great rep at SGC, and as long as he stays employed by the company, I will be okay. But it will be weird. Yes.
Are you concerned after he is assimilated by the Borg? Are you worried, after the implant gets put in and he's like, Brandon, we're thinking upcharges. What do you think?
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Upcharges. Yeah. That'd be pretty sweet.
Oh, man. Oh, let me see the first someone gets an upcharge on an SGC order meltdown on a Facebook group.
Oh, that you just brought something I did not think about. Like, I mean, there's only been, and I'll be transparent with everybody here. I don't even know how many people is watching, but I have been upcharged on one. We had a Jordan that I sent in, an 86 Fleer Jordan that had potential to be a 9. The guy, I contacted the owner of it. He swore it was real. It turned out to be fake, but that's neither here nor there. That was one. The order that had the 52 mantles, that obviously cost more, but it had 52 mantles in it. And then they called me one day and said they had to upcharge me on a Sandy Koufax rookie. Outside of that, in the thousands of cards that we've sent in, that's been it. So it's never been an issue. That would definitely be weird. That will be weird.
But now think of the joy that you'll have after you do every one of the submissions, and it's like upcharges for everyone.
Phew.
Pretty good.
It will make things way more difficult. That is for sure.
Sports card nonsense in the house. I assume this is Mike and not Jesse, but I don't know for sure.
You can never be sure.
Yeah. I'll be. I guess you guys have a good topic for your podcast for tomorrow. You guys record on Thursdays, I think.
Is this a leap year joke instead of like April Fool's? Is it a leap year joke?
Yeah. Does this announcement actually exist if it happens like formally tomorrow? Is that how this works?
Yeah, like it was on a irrelevant day of the year.
Someone in chat brought this up. This is kind of like the interesting thing of like now, and not that I don't think like SGC's pricing specials affected PSA that much in the grand scheme of things, but now like you don't have those two kind of keeping each other honest from that perspective, because PSA will be like, nah, you're not running a $9 top special next month. We're good. Just keep charging your $15 or whatever it is. There's kind of like those weird aspects of it if they're going to continue to be separate companies, which I don't know. Bobbles, we'll let you chime in on that. Do you think this whole separate company thing is like 2 years from now? Are you still submitting cards to SGC in Florida, or are you a PSA bulk submitter to Florida?
That's why I said like this doesn't. It's a weird scenario. Why would a company own two separate companies underneath doing the same thing? Like you literally just bought the number 2 competitor. So if you just turned it into your own and made it a Florida branch, then you are just, adding another component to the Death Star. Like, I mean, how do you? I honestly do not have answers on this because I didn't expect it to be. I didn't expect it to be PSA.
And I think the other weird, whether they say they're going to be separate companies or not. So they could spin this tomorrow. Pete will come out on an IG live. PSA will come out. Whoever is going to come out and say whatever. In the back of everyone's minds, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, sure. Until you eventually turn them all into one. So does that hurt SGC's numbers in the immediate? Like how many people tomorrow are still going to be like, yep, let's pack this order off and ship it off to Florida with the turbulence? Even if they say, oh no, nothing to see here, boys and girls, status quo, Peter's still down there doing his thing. Customer service is going to be great. We're still not going to upcharge. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. SGC is just going to carry on how we're carrying on. We just have this new money to do financial improvements and investments in. Like, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to side eye that and be like, sure. So there, do you get this to Bottles first? Do you think that this affects submissions in the near term? Or a lot of people going to be like, I got to see how this plays out before I send anything else down there?
Short answer, yes, because even myself, like I don't know what the answers are. I can't put in my group right now and tell people how this is going to play out because I don't have an answer. I don't know enough yet to 100% have a solid speculation, but I would say near term until we definitely know what's going on. I would definitely say yes. On a jokingly side note, I did see it was kind of mentioned in the Discord. what timing here when I'm saying we were just having a discussion about PSA's set registry, and I was like, oh, well, they could just have like a sub brand, similar to what Beckett had, and then boom, they buy SGC. And I mean, what if it turned into something like that? The set registry guys, you send your set registry cards to Florida, and everything else goes to California. That would be a scenario.
Chris with the comment of the year that just hits me, and Carlos in our specials places. Biggest winner here, card YouTubers. The content creator, whenever anything like this happens, the only people that win are the content creators.
Praise the content gods, as always.
Indeed. Carlos, do you have any do you think, like, even if they stay separate or whatever, in the short term, this can't have a positive effect on SGC's numbers, I would think.
I think so in all seriousness, like I said, I could play devil's advocate and talk about why you could have the two separate. The problem is, to your point, most people are going to be dubious anyway. Doesn't matter how you try to present it. If you try to say the two separate, people are going to be dubious. What I think it'll do is, uncertainty doesn't make people comfortable. It's one of those situations where if you were going to set up a submission, so we'll use Bobbles' business as kind of an example. Right now, to his point, he's got his Facebook group and people are asking a bunch of questions he doesn't have an answer to. He will try to get an answer from his rep and from folks that are going to, obviously SGC Pete is going to have to do his spiel. He may do a whole song and dance and a whole thing about it, but people are going to look at it differently, knowing that he is now under the thumb of collectors one way or the other. So no matter what he says, there's going to be a contingent that is going to be like, it's not the same SGC. And then for a while, it's going to be like, okay, so I guess I'll wait and see. What is the pricing going to be going forward? And at the same time, if people are worried that eventually, to your point, it just becomes, Florida PSA, office, then why would you want to put more stuff in SGC slabs? If you honestly think that's going to be the case, then what's the point of sending new stuff?
That there is a good question too, that I was just sitting there thinking, like, I mean, you mentioned Pete. Now you got two CEOs of one or of the grading companies owned by collectors. I mean, because Nat's still CEO of PSA, right? So that would
Well,
be
he's CEO of collectors. So you gotta remember, like, Nat is actually
Ryan's president of PSA.
Yeah. It's Ryan
there was
Hoge.
a shift there. Okay.
Yeah, that happened a while ago.
Mike,
I
guess if they stay separate.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Gio, if you want to hop on, let me know. I'll DM you the link on Instagram. I know you don't understand how YouTube works, but
yeah, I think at that point though, Pete basically becomes like, again, just playing out the hypothetical scenario, because we don't know what the structure is going to be. We have no idea. But in effect, he goes from being the CEO of SGC to, he can still call himself the CEO of SGC, but he's really like a division head. Like, even if you keep it as a separate company, if it's under collectors, he's basically head of a department. The SGC, the tuxedo department. Like, that's really all it is, because you got a whole structure.
And on a serious note, this is interesting because SGC has now been owned by their own entity, and then owned by two of the other companies in the grading space. The only one that they haven't been owned by is Becket. So they've kind of been around the grading block now. That's weird. I did not expect this.
yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone expected this. I mean, SGC getting acquired, I had on a bingo card somewhere. I didn't think it would go here. I think most people are kind of seeing SGC acquired, I don't think is that shocking. I think it going to collectors is the surprising part.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Right now, like we talked about a couple of those scenarios. SGC was by process of elimination. It wasn't like this crazy insight. It's like, well, Beckett's literally owned by a guy who's in jail. They've got a complicated structure. It's not like you couldn't do it, but number one, it would be a little bit more difficult to do. And number two, honestly, why? Like, what is Becket bringing to the table at this point, other than old brand equity, which every day that goes by is less and less?
Yeah, someone in chat was saying about, they could use SGC to lower the prices to choke out Becket and CGC. They've PSA already choked out Becket and SGC. Look at the monthly gem rate numbers. It's not even close.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
now when
Becket
you
did
look
a
at
good
that
chunk of that for
pie,
themselves. Yeah.
yeah. Now when you look at that pie, even if they're two separate companies, it's all going to collectors' coffers. So when you look at that gem rate pie chart at the end of the month, like, it's going to be even more insane.
Well, I think
Becket choked
Ravel
out
did like
themselves.
Ravel did like the quick napkin math, and basically that puts the PSA combined entity like at 85% of the market on the gem rate stuff, based on the gem rate numbers.
Yeah, that's, I
because
mean,
it
rough,
basically combines
I'll
70 and
trust
7.
this math, but that sounds right at the oh yeah, he has it right
Yeah.
there. It's literally on my
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, it's somewhere in that vicinity. So you take that again, take it as approximate, whatever. But like, so just last month, 1.22 million and 157,000. That's what last month was for those two. It separates them out. It's quite a bit. But Beckett is a distant fourth. Like they're not. It's not even close.
No, yeah, I mean, God knows what they're doing down there. I think if you wanted to spin like an air quote side winner here, I guess it would be CGC, just because of if the never PSA people need somewhere to turn, that's your best bet.
Well, so that would be that was the question I asked a couple minutes ago. But like, if you really are never PSA, now maybe CGC becomes more viable to you.
Yeah, I mean, their slab. I mean, I've talked about it a million times. Their slab's fantastic.
And I think the bulk price is quite reasonable. I think it's really good. Like if you're part of that collector's club or whatever, like the price is fair and the slabs look good. So I don't see why wouldn't you?
So I actually am. I've never done a open public bulk submission for them, but I am actually an authorized dealer for CGC as well. So I could if I needed to, but SGC has been rolling along. The turnarounds are good. People like them more than the other, and the secondary market and everything else. And so yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Michael Gio, what is up?
It's usually about the time I'm changing diapers, but I thought, you know what? I can deal with some other baby poop right now for a few minutes.
So we'll clear out. We'll let you have the floor here for a minute because we've given our takes. So just let you unleash your hot takes on this one.
It's wild, huh? I'm shocked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I really thought, I told Jesse the other day and the guys who break with us now, I was like, guys, I actually really think this is going to shape up nicely. Fanatics buying SGC, perfect marriage for us. So yeah, I'm floored. What is I'm curious for you three though. What is the take on SGC's like value, not only like resale value, but value as a company, as a brand going forward? What's the kind of consensus with you three?
So I'm on. We'll go. I'll start and then we'll kick it to Carlos and then Bobbles. I'm on team. I don't think SGC still exists in like a year or two. Like I'm not buying this separate company nonsense. I think this is hey, we're acquiring them and we don't want to cause complete and utter chaos and panic. So yeah, they're their own separate company for now, ... And eventually it's just a PSA office. That's my quick and dirty.
That's a lot of money to spend though. To just is the point just buy them to cut out competition?
So
you
my
gotta
argument there is that PSA just spun up New Jersey. So they know exactly how much it costs to buy a building, staff it, equip it, and get it ready to rock and roll. Whatever that number is, they know it. They're well aware of it.
Yeah, but the company, SGC, you're talking, I would think it's in the I mean, from offers made in the past and discussions that we were shown proof of, it's got to be hundreds of millions at this point, I would think. Even in a downtime. I'm not talking about the cost to buy a building. I'm talking you buy a brand for 100 million or more just to shut them down. I could see it. By the way, I have no definitive.
Yeah.
I could tell you the way. That seems crazy. I think both sides of the argument seem crazy. That's why I have no useful comment other than just to criticize everybody else. Doesn't that seem wild? Like you buy them for that kind of money just to shut them down?
It does, but like also why would PSA / collectors want this like side piece SGC? Like what's their long-term goal to have a separate grading company when you already own a grading company. Like that's the part.
So look, I'll give the half-hearted. I'll give the half-hearted argument for that.
You're now taking this stance whether you like it or not, Carlos.
Look, I have no choice. I'll play this role. I'll play the role. My role is I kind of agree with the premise of buying it. Like there was really no reason for them to buy it. Like competition or not, the gap between the two was wide enough that you didn't actually have to do this move, unless you saw an opportunity to take advantage of a brand that has actually existed for decades. You actually have a contingent of very loyal folks that do care about the SGC brand. Like I said, I'm half-hearted in terms of it because I'm not committed to the take because Lord knows what they actually want to do. But here's the thing. I actually think that if all their plan was to eventually absorb it and get rid of it, it's like, okay, cool. But there's going to be some folks that are going to come back and they're not going to submit with PSA. It doesn't matter what you do. So all you did was get rid of the SGC folks and either push them to CGC and like 5 of them Becket, or you basically, or they go raw. They're like, yeah, we're just literally not going to give you any money. We don't care. Or you run them, like I use the analogy about the beer brand. You got Anheuser-Busch and all these ones, and they own a bunch of different beer. Do they need to own a bunch of beer brands? No. But they let people feel like, oh, this is a craft beer. No, it's not. It's owned by Anheuser-Busch. But
hey, Carlos, let me ask you this then. I actually thought I kind of am on that stance you're with now. I do wonder, because everybody makes a big deal of PSA. Collectors is worth way more than PSA as a company in general. If you've got a cash cow and you can just acquire another thing that's a cash cow in the same space, wouldn't you just do it anyways? And just let it. I mean, that's the only thing I could see for letting it run totally independent. Is, hey, this thing literally makes so much money, but if we go buy it and just let it run, we've seen what one grading company does. Just buy another one. Like to your beer analogy.
Yeah.
Like Bud Light. Sure, that's what I mean. Like Bud Light makes a ton of money. I don't care that Coors Light's a competitor. If they're all under if at the end of the day it all goes back to the same person, I'm happy. I would buy 35 beer companies. They're all making me money.
That would be my pitch. Like my argument for this, if I'm putting it up on a whiteboard or I'm putting it up on a PowerPoint deck, my argument would be like, look, there's some folks that will never go to PSA. It doesn't matter what you do. You could put a gun to your head and they'll like shoot me first. And there are folks that are like SGC. They've already committed to SGC. They've got thousands of slabs in SGC. You get rid of SGC and you're basically throwing them out because they're not going to come back. So I'm glad you bought them. Congratulations. You control that now. But if you completely throw it out, again, if this company was 5 years old or like 4 years old, it's a heck of a lot easier just to make them disappear.
Sure.
But
and cheaper.
They've been around since the 90s. And there are some folks that have been SGC grading for forever, especially the vintage cards for the longest time. And more recently, the modern ones.
Here's a cute little fun fact. I mean, so this is not confirmed by anybody on the SGC side, but somebody at PSA, and then just kind of an independent person who's both have said we don't want to say this, but this is what they have heard. This was a move to block the Fanatics purchase. That also seems wild to me, but again, maybe. It's funny though. They both independently texted me almost verbatim the exact same thing because I told them the same thing. I was so wrong about this. I thought for sure they were going Fanatics.
Well, kind of ties into what you were just talking about before that. About hey, we're collectors. We have this money laying around. Oh, this is a profitable business, and also we can block out the bigger competitor, the bigger fish from coming in. We can fire first. So, and maybe, talking about like what ends up happening, maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's both. Maybe they're like, hey, you know what? We'll run them as an independent company. If it works, it works. Great. If it ends up not working, then guess what? They just become PSA Florida. Both things can be true. It could be, sure, yeah, we're going to keep them separate. If everything goes good, money keeps flowing in, submissions keep coming, cool. And if it ends up being, because what I was talking about earlier before you hopped on was about like, if you're a big SGC submitter, how do you feel about sending them cards next week? Like, do you think, Mike, that this has like, you guys are very pro SGC, obviously, and they're, I have no issues with SGC at all. But if you're a diehard SGC person, how are you feeling packaging up a submission to go out next week?
I will say it is interesting because I've always said the most stubborn people in the hobby, well, old people who hate breaking, I just hate anyways. But aside from that, the most stubborn people are graders. Like I've never heard a person who's a staunch believer in one company ever change their mind, right? Like grading fanboys, they won't change. So I do wonder, like, so the big response in our group, we've had a couple thousand comments already. and the majority are like, oh, I ride or die with SGC no matter what. But I do wonder, our audience is super skewed, right? Like we spit that because that's what I've lived and breathed the last couple of years. So I do wonder if that's the actual consensus. Like, hey, let's rally around them and make this thing work. Or if it's like, hey, if they're just going to get bought out and there's changes coming. At the very least, I would think, don't you just, until you know what's happening, wouldn't you just hold off? Because what if it's like a reholder situation or a regrade situation? Even if there's just a possibility of that, I wouldn't send stuff in tomorrow. I'd be a little bit.
That's what I think happens. I think there's a chill. I think there's a chill in the immediate aftermath until we were talking before you came on. Bobbles here is an SGC bulk submitter, and he has a Facebook group, and people are shooting questions at him right now, left, right, and center, that he doesn't have an answer to.
Yeah.
So the reality for a lot of those folks is some of them are going to like hold back and like, all right, let's just see what happens. Let the dust settle a little bit, and then we make up our decisions from there.
Yeah, I just shipped an order out Monday, and it hasn't been checked into the system yet. And so I don't have any answers for folks because this was definitely unexpected. But I think to the points there, the number wise, like if you think, Mike, if you think they paid in, 100 million range, that would make sense for that number if they were trying to block a Fanatics deal, because then they're investing on the implications of Fanatics taking over and what impact that would have on PSA. To buy them for 100 million just to say, okay, we want the 150,000 a month that FGC is getting under our umbrella, that would be a little bit different, I think. But if it is indeed to block a deal like that, that would make more sense, because, then PSA has basically Becket to choose from, because I don't think they're going to buy the whole CGC rank.
Hey, Brandon, real quick, do you happen to know, I'm not up on the gem rate stats like I should be. Do you happen to know what they're doing a month grading SGC? Is it about 100,000? Is that kind of where they're?
Last month was 157. Last month was 157.
They've been capping at around that 140 to 150-ish range.
No cap. I have a big calculator. Just going to run this for just a second. It's about the size of Jesse's torso to put it in perspective. So you're talking revenue, 150,000 cards at $15 a card. Hang on a second. There's no commas on this thing. I believe 2.25 million a month in revenue. Or is it 22?
So that's it.
Assuming no $9 specials.
That's a lot of money. Like, I'm just trying to think, like, when you value a company, right? Like, yearly revenue is usually
you put a multiple.
Like 3 to 5x. Like, that's I've had 2 exits and a couple bankruptcies, which haven't been great, but like 3 to 5 times, you're talking like 25 million a year. So yeah, I do. I think that 100,000 numbers, 100 million numbers, probably fairly accurate. That's wild.
I wonder, because I had always heard, and I'm sure you heard the same thing, Mike, that CGC was close to getting them like last year, or at least was in the conversations about trying to acquire them. I have to imagine CGC is like, why didn't we just pull the trigger on this? I mean,
if you're CGC, when do you just scrap sports? Just do friggin' TCG and comic books. They do like more than everybody else combined in those things, and no one cares about their sports. I don't know why they use it. I honestly don't know why they do it at all.
Well, that's kind of
strange. I love their slabs for PC cards. They're great. Like, their slabs are fantastic.
Oh, I think they have a great slab. I think they have an ugly label, and I actually think they have the best actual slab of anybody. I think it's the cleanest look. I think the label's ugly and the resale sucks.
Yeah, the resale's terrible.
But TCG, they murder it. I don't know why they even decided. Okay, just for one, I'm going to leave after this. So I know I dominate conversations because I just am a loudmouth idiot.
No, you're fine.
Filmington, that donkey in the chat, actually agreed with me a little bit. So I think on that.
Well, that means you're wrong. So I'm sorry.
That's why I guarantee. Oh, well, he's sitting in Haverhill right now with a shaved chest, looking at himself in the mirror, thinking SGC, PSA. Makes me happy, though.
Just flipping through random Bowman firsts that no one's ever heard of.
He's just flipping through his cases. He's like, oh, here's a case of 2017 draft. Not a big deal. $8,000.
Yeah. He's in a storage unit. He's in a storage unit with just cardboard boxes behind him on a shelf.
Poor guy made one comment. He didn't even do anything wrong. Well, there you go.
I do like the cock block Fanatics angle on the SGC acquisition. I can really see. I mean, that makes total sense to me. Like,
I mean, I don't love it. I'll be honest with you. I was pretty pumped because I was, like I said, I was pretty sure.
Yeah, you're like, let's get them on Fanatics Live now.
Well,
on Fanatics Breaking or on Fanatics Grading.
Here's the thing, man. Break It grade it, bring it back and consign it. Build out a wallet, you get break credit right on Fanatics Live. I was like, this is going to be the first app that does everything all at once. I thought it'd be perfect. But
So, given tonight's revelation, do you think if Fanatics enters grading, do you think that they try to them spinning up from scratch isn't their style? There's no legit acquisition target now. Do you think they just partner with PSA, or do you think they just say, we got enough stuff on our plate, we'll just deal with this later?
so that's a good thing, right? If you're them, I mean, you don't have to do anything. You could literally just make a deal, make a grading portal, and open up to everybody. I always thought that would be the best option everywhere. Have all 4 major grading companies available, one click to your people. Then you're not involved with, oh, well, I'm a PSA guy, SGC. I don't care what you are, just grade it through us. You get it. It's a win. Because yeah, they've never, like, they don't build from the ground up in general. They generally buy, although Fanatics Live is from the ground up. But it was an idea that was, copied. It was a live selling idea. You're not going to buy CSG. You're certainly not going to buy Becket, I don't think, because of the price tag, and then you got to rebuild that brand. But even if they did, I'll tell you, if you bought
And
Becket,
bail the owner out of jail, that'll be expensive.
I think you just leave him in jail. I've heard him and his celly are tight. You could buy Becket, I guess, but I also just think they're probably not going to do anything. Like, if I'm them, I would just make a deal like, hey, we will send you cards, build a portal that has the same PAI, API, whatever that stupid term is. It just literally right from Fanatics Live, click it, and my customers send it anywhere. That's a win. You don't even have to buy it, and you still get a piece of the fee right off the top.
Yeah, the tag bots are going wild in the comment section.
Listen, I know
seeing that
Patty's
too.
card. Listen, I know Patty's cards is also has some fun in the Discord. He goes, I don't understand what he's talking about. We're not ignoring tag. I've got a coaster right here, and I've got my drink on it. Is what you use it for.
I ignored
Tag's not a
tag.
real player.
Yeah, I ignored tag and men named
phenomenal
Patty.
coasters, the best coasters on the sports card market.
Spoilers, unless something crazy changed over the last couple of days, they're going to grade like 4,000 cards in the month of January based off based off gem rate numbers that he sends me.
That's 4,000. You know what's funny? I actually think tag is pretty cool too. They're super transparent. They show up at shows. Like, I think they do a great job. But it's funny about them. Here's the thing: don't bring up resale value at all, because the only time they bring it up is like, hey, did you see this outsold a PSA 10? Fantastic. Like, so did Red Rocket the other day because some moron bought it. Like, what are we doing? Like, I that's the only thing that drives me nuts about them.
Yeah, and it's always some super niche card that's like a pop 1.
Yeah, like, who cares? I just, because what was the big one before that? They had the super nice. I bet you got some, Neo. Remember about a year and a half ago, that company with like Aoki and all the cool guys were sending everybody who had like a following anywhere. Rare edition.
No, they don't. Yeah. They know better than to send me that stuff because I despise any pop-up grading company.
Yeah, like that was another one going to be the big thing. See, Dan the Cardman, Fanatics will acquire BGS. Maybe, but I think BGS has a huge price tag, and I don't trust Australians. I've well documented saying that. He knows that.
Yeah, I mean, like, so we kind of talked about it earlier. I don't know that BGS is acquirable for like a long list of reasons. Like, between price and like back end nonsense. I mean, anyone's acquirable, but I just think it's more complicated than than most people realize that it is.
And I guess too, like I said, why? If Fanatics was going to get in the grading game, I think they would have already done it. I think, but I don't have any source for that. I have no idea. They don't tell us anything, so I'd be shocked if they bought a grading company. At this point, I thought they were going to buy SGC. Now, at this point, I'm just like, I can't even see it. But
because SGC was the cleanest. They weren't tied up in some mega corp with a bunch of other nonsense. They were privately owned. They were just existed.
And they've done 57 specials already, and they're always in the room together. They're the only ones they have a great working relationship with. Hey, one other thing that's stupid, by the way, can we stop with the antitrust? Does anybody actually understand what a monopoly is?
No.
I know people on social media are stupid, and I am too. But like, what is the deal with everybody with the monopoly talk? That's a guy with a monocle. This is not a monopoly. There's still other grading companies out there. That is another dumb take.
Ugh. Yeah. No, 100%.
Unless you guys had that take, and then I think it's a very reasonable, logical argument.
No, I was fighting chat with that earlier about how
I'm just trying to imagine what happens when Brandon gets a monocle. I could see the potential here. I'm kind of enjoying this idea.
I can hardly see with both lenses, let alone one.
Just tape a monocle on top of it, man. You'll be fine.
I do have a question though, because now with the little scenario of it being a potential block, personally, and coming from, obviously someone that highly supports SGC and everything. If that is the scenario, it would make little sense for PSA necessarily to keep them running as their own entity. So if that's the scenario, I see it even more potential that they switch over to the PSA brand, or PSA just says, okay, we let y'all run for the rest of the year, 18 months, whatever. This is just, we'll just take those cards over here in Cali and do them over here. I mean, does that make y'all feel more in that scenario if it was a block situation? It wasn't that they actually wanted to own SGC.
I mean, I'm kind of already on that lean anyway, so I'm probably the wrong person to answer that one. I don't know, Carlos, as team, keep them separate, whether you want to believe it or not.
Like I said, for me, like the only thing I can use as a premise here for it is just that, like, look, it's not that collectors couldn't do it. I'm pretty sure they found the money in the couch cushions. Nat Turner was grabbing around and saying, "Hey, 100 million. Hey, I should probably do something with this. What the hell?" But the thing is, like I said, you buy them out. I just don't think you gain any value from it if you completely eliminate the brand. And the only reason I say that is because, like I said, you're not going to convert a bunch of the SGC people to PSA. You're just not. So the thing is, okay, so you bought them out, great. And then what happens when they either go to a competitor or just ditch you entirely? You didn't do anything. You accomplished nothing.
Hey, Carlos, here's a question, though. So if they operate, let's go into the guys, because at this point, we're all just going off Ravel's tweets, right? He's corresponded a little bit privately, and I think he has quite a bit more information. But they've been purchased. They're going to run separately. I will say the one good I think comes out of this, I'm just going to go off the assumption that's true, because contrary to people not liking Ravel, he has way more connections than anybody in the hobby. He actually does real news. Like, I get news secondhand. Some of us get news secondhand. That guy actually breaks stories, like, for real. So I think that's a different level. If nothing else, I do think PSA's customer service gets better, because love him or hate him, I don't think anybody in the hobby is anywhere near as good at customer service as SGC. Not even just grading. Any major hobby company, I think SGC has the best customer service. Whether you love them or hate them, it's great. If that's the case, like, I can't imagine you allow those two to operate separately. And the biggest complaint about one is you can't get anybody to respond to something, and the other is the best at, like, actually taking care of people. If that's the case, maybe it actually ups PSA's game and it's a better environment for people who still use them.
My joke, or I forget who brought it up, but the joke earlier was, how big of a meltdown will the SGC fanboys have the first time they get an upcharge?
I will melt down.
I don't think you even have to wait. Like, look, I've got YouTube in the other window, and I refreshed it as we've been talking tonight. And literally the first thing I see on the left side, the top panel, is breaking news: PSA purchase SGC. Are we doomed? ?
There you
Well,
go.
you gotta get the clickbait.
Top left, right there.
Hey, I will say another piece of fake news too, by the way, and this has been going on for years. Fanatics does not own CSG. Michael Rubin in Blackstone or BlackRock, whatever it is, owns a piece of CSG. It's not Fanatics money. That's been pretty well established. That's come up a few times too.
Yeah,
that's not the case.
Anytime someone would bring that up, they'd be like, "Oh, no, Fanatics is going to go with CSG." My first response would be, then why do they run the $9 specials with SGC and not CGC?
Because you want to make CSG relevant. Like, dude, how about opening day of Bowman? We're doing this price for, like, that would drive attention. Yeah. They've never done anything with them.
Yeah, Blackstone's invested in like 14 quadrillion things, and I'm sure Rubin is too. So probably, I mean, Nat Turner probably technically owns part of CGC because he probably has money in Blackstone somewhere. Like,
hey, probably.
The logic leap on that was always a crazy one to me. I agree 100%.
And I do think, like, a company like PSA, though, Collectors, a multi-billion-dollar company, and they are public, right? Collectors,
no, they're private.
Collectors is private still. Okay,
yes.
Even more.
Which is another weird angle to this. If they ever want to go public again, is this a play like building up the brand of having now SGC under the wing? Is this some weird angle for the public? Because I have to imagine Nat Turner and that group bottom took them private. You have to imagine the end goal there was to take them public at some point in time.
Yeah, because there's no buyer at this point, right? You become so big and successful. Who in the hobby could buy? Because I'll be honest, I don't think Fanatic could buy Collectors at this point. Collectors is probably pushing what, 7 to 10 billion for the whole brand. I mean, PSA alone was 3 billion a year ago.
Yeah, and they have so much. I mean, I've lost track of everything that's actually under the collector's umbrella.
So that's what I mean. You become so big, nobody is buying that as a company. So if you go public, I guess I could see that. I guess my other thing too is like when billionaires make moves, I don't know. They usually keep making money. It's like, so if that's the case, again, I'm operating under the premise that what I've read is true because I've only seen it from one person. They're going to operate separately. A crazy successful business, whether you like them or hate them, collectors makes money in everything they do. I don't understand the premise either that SGC now goes to zero. Unless that statement that I'm basing it off of is false. They don't operate separately. But if they do operate separately, like the only thing we've seen, then they're just going to make that company more successful.
Why
Which
this
would be
is
good for
not
my
how
PC.
I expected my night to end. Was PSA acquiring SGC.
What is a normal night for you? What's a normal ending to a Wednesday night? I'm curious about this. Give the people the information they
Watch
want.
the Cavs, and then finish up whatever I got to do for the video the next day, and then head to bed.
Is there like a Max Strus just like uncomfortable, like fondling situation? I don't need details, but like, are you just like?
I was watching last night's game upstairs, and my wife was downstairs working, and she's just like, what she yelled up. She's like, "Are you okay?"
Fair.
Yeah, that was.
I just assumed you did YouTube videos in your sleep. And after a while, your wife got tired of you, doing YouTube sign-offs. I just assumed that
I'm
was
not quite that
on.
efficient.
Okay, like I said, I'm just working off assumptions, man. Like,
yeah, close, but not quite that efficient.
Fair enough.
What are you seeing in the in your group, Gio? Because I can tell you,
Is your group
the response over in mine isn't too positive.
I think people are doom and like, hey, this sucks. Hate this, which I get. Anytime there's even it's not a monopoly, but there's a sniff of monopoly talk. I think reasonably the first thing is like, yeah, this is not. I think competition's good. So I also am a capitalist, so I'm all for, make the most money you can make and go crazy. But I think it's okay to have a healthy fear of this. That seems like the most popular response. Like, this is just rough. We loved SGC. Hate that it's going away.
Well, it's not. Well, according to Ravel, it's not going away.
Sure. Yep. And a lot of tag comments, which is just annoying. So
the tag bots always creeping.
Another good point. You guys,
dollar, man.
What's that, Carlos?
I was just saying the marketing team spent top dollar. They got the robots to turn them on, flip them on. It's like, wait, send them.
Yeah. Hey, here's a question. Hey, you just got this question. Actually, Brandon, you probably know this better than me. Have you been a couple of guys asking about the time? Is this what's been affecting the time? Have you noticed a slowdown in your returns from SGC lately?
Yeah, so they're running at probably about 3.5 weeks right now.
Yeah.
They were at the end of 2023, they were at about 2 weeks, and right now it's about 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing too. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, some people had sent me some copies of like customer service emails in my DMs about like, hey, why is my order taking so long? And they cited they got a huge influx from that Bowman special that they ran at the end of December.
Sure.
Which I get that, but 1 + 1 wasn't quite equaling 2 for me there because that was December. Like we're a month and a half later now.
And they've done it 4 times, by the way. It's a 4th special.
Yeah, so
yeah.
It felt like that's what they were pointing to, but I wasn't necessarily buying that. So maybe there was something else going on. I know Bobbles, didn't they just move into when did they move into their new building? It was pretty recently, wasn't it?
So the way it was explained to me is they didn't even move into a new building. It's in the same building. It's just a large space instead of multiple offices. And I was told everything was supposed to be set up like all new equipment and everything. So they just go from the offices they were in to that big office, and it was supposed to help all of the volume and everything, because instead of having 4 or how many other small offices they had, it would all be right there and more fluid. And I was wondering the same thing when the numbers crept up, and then I seen the gem rate number and I was like, wait, this is the most they've ever done in a month. And then to see that the times were getting longer, I mean, obviously the demand had to have grown, if they, still put out their largest number ever and it was just taking longer. I was expecting it to be something else, but I don't know. I was told the same thing. They just had a huge increase in demand.
Yeah, that just seems strange to me, given how far away from that we now are, and like Mike said, that this is not the first time that they've done this. So,
I can actually tell you right now they are working on orders from around February 9th to the 14th range. That's where they're at getting orders out. So to give you an idea of how long it's taking right now.
And I talked about it on Off Centered prior to this live stream. I sent a PSA order in when they're on their January special at the end of the month, when they got absolutely slammed that the site crashed and they had to extend the special an extra day, and my grades popped today on that. PSA got that order on February 5th. It sat for almost a full 2 weeks before it even got checked in, and my grades still popped today. So PSA is cooking on ultra modern stuff. Like, they're still turning orders in under a month, which is wild. I haven't gotten shipment on that yet, but I have the grades if I want to go look at them. And that was about 24 real life days, not even business days, which is crazy for PSA to be turning stuff that fast.
I will say the other downside too, if it's even true, if that, back to that block theory, to keep fanatics out, the only other thing I hate about that is, if that's the case, you're probably not getting any more specials with PSA or SGC now for anything Bowman, which sucks, because I think those specials are actually fantastic. Like, people who don't grade ever grade that stuff just because it's dirt cheap and they figure why not. So if that's the case, which I don't know if it is, I think that probably goes away.
I hinted about that, or kind of mentioned that earlier about, like, and I don't know how much the SGC pricing specials affected PSA pricing, but there is no, like, keep them honest anymore now. Like, that is the downside to this.
Sure. Yeah, lack of competition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I don't know if, when SGC would roll out a $9 special, if PSA was like really, I'm sure they weren't shaking in their boots, but I'm sure they were like, oh, okay, cool. We'll roll out a $16 MLB special. It'll be more, but we'll still get a ton of business from it or whatever. But now, like, you're not going to see any of that stuff. Like, or do you even see SGC pricing specials anymore? Or they just stay at the flat 15 forever?
Yeah, which is tough. I mean, that's, like I said, a lot of people grade, and a lot more cards are excited. At that point, it makes more sense to grade a ton of stuff at $9. I know it's only a $6 difference, but on a $15 or $20 card, there's your margin. Like, it actually makes sense to grade a bunch of small base stuff and everything else.
So, I mean, like, just you personally, like you send a lot of stuff to SGC. Does this, like, are you now just going to be like, well, I guess I might as well just send it to PSA? Like,
no. So, I mean,
how is this affecting you from, like, your own personal grading? Like, have you kind of, like, even walked through that yet in your mind?
Oh, 100% selfish motive. First, they're one of our biggest sponsors. SGC has been for 3 years. So I am curious, are we still getting paid? How does that work? Aside from that, yeah. I mean, then just take that part out of it, which, again, I just say that because otherwise I get blasted. This guy gets paid from, take that part out. I guess my initial thought is just, I would like to know what's happening, and somewhat big picture. Is there going to be a regrade, reslab situation? Is that what this was done for? If that's the case, I'm going to hold and wait till I hear it. If not, like, hey, if they are truly going to just go as individual, so there's good and bad, right? Sorry to super long-winded answer. If they are legitimately just going to say, hey, we are literally going to let these guys go forward like nothing ever happened, collectors just makes the money, SGC continues to run as they did, then I have even more faith in their profit and resale going forward. Again, now you have the biggest brand behind you. Obviously, grading will be more consistent between the two companies because they're under the same parent company, I would think. If that's the case, I think their stock just rose incredibly. If there's anything besides that, though, my thought would just be, I don't know what to do. I'm going to just wait and see. I don't have to have anything great in the next 10 days. Let me just wait.
Yeah, I think the party line tomorrow, because I'm sure we're going to get, we were talking earlier, like, I'm sure we're going to get a Peter IG live tomorrow. I'm sure we're going to get press releases and the whole 9 yards. I have to imagine the party line is going to be nothing to see here. Everything's fine. We got some new money. We could do this and that. Technology advancements. This takes care of. I said this was my joke earlier was this is a hell of a way to get around, Peter finally to get a set registry that he's been talking about for a year and a half.
If you're going to let it run, though, there's no way you're moving Pete out of that. Like if it's
No,
truly
I don't
running
think so either. Chat was talking about that earlier. If anything, Peter's probably could double his value to be like, hey, you guys really need me now, because if
I
you want
would
to keep
think.
the SGC loyalists, you need me on those Instagram lives. Comment.
So
Yeah.
do you start? So do you start the Instagram live with him holding that day's newspaper so people don't assume it was a pre-tape? Is it like a hostage video situation where somebody off screen is like, "Say the line"?
Yeah. He just rips the SGC shirt and it says PSA SGC underneath Superman style.
I wonder if has anyone checked this Lameme photoshopped up an SGC slab with a PSA label on the top of it yet?
He photoshopped a bunch of Nat stuff. It's been pretty funny.
Oh, I'll have to check that. I haven't been able to look
Yeah.
at any of that stuff yet because I've been
Well,
locked
Mike was
into the
asking
live.
earlier if he's one of his questions is if he's still going to get paid with the SGC sponsorship. You'll know something's going on if in the next podcast episode you see a video and he's got like a collector's hat, Nat Turner on a hoodie, and he's like, business as usual, guys. It's all the same, no difference whatsoever. It'll be like the Garth from Wayne's World. He's like all decked out in garb from head to toe.
Yeah, suddenly he's selling all his cards on Golden. Everything's card ladder.
I'll tell you what, I'll know I'm really in trouble. He's like, it just is brought to you by Neo on his hat. I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Neo gets like an upgraded lighting situation in that room, and all of a sudden, like, I have no cards behind me because I can't afford to keep the friggin' lights on.
It's
very
Cards and
scary.
Comics from the state of the art studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neo relocates to Florida. It's like, what the heck? Yeah, I do wonder. I will say, selfishly, I hope Peter stays. I think Peter's been great for the game. He's super outspoken. You never get that
Peter's
kind of
fantastic.
outspoken. Yeah, I hope that happens. I mean, I am. There's some downside if you knock out a number 2 competitor like that, and I don't care about the percentage either. Like, oh, they're grading 8 to 1. It's the perception, right? Like, hey, there is this other option if I want to use it. To me, that was super valuable. I've always said though, the most valuable thing that could ever happen for the collector is if all 4 major companies had exactly the same resale. Like, then there would be nothing. Hey, this one's slow. Cool. I just like that slab better. Cool. Because resale is the same. Like, if you could ever just get a world where those things could be consistent, that would be fantastic. It'll never happen, but that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's a pipe dream and a half right there, because buy the card, not the grade is the biggest myth in the world.
Yeah, that's same people telling me to buy Bitcoin. Like, you please.
I think Jason Cards and Comics, though, has a good comp there. Peter will go the way of Joe Orlando. And that could be a thing where you keep him around and then just eventually he phased out until the point that he kind of takes off. Because Joe Orlando stuck around a little while after the initial acquisition and then kind of handed it off. And then he, he took off to do his own stuff.
Yeah, I truly just from the several years now dealing with Peter and the company itself and everything, I think he truly enjoys being in the hobby, being in the grading space and everything else. And I don't know that he would sell out and ride off in the wind. Now, if they kicked him out, that would be kind of silly, as others alluded to, because, he has been a good voice, not just, for SGC, but for the hobby itself. I mean, I that would be a silly scenario, really.
It comes down to money, though, too, right? Like, what's Pete, like 29, 30? I don't know what his stock options look like, but, like, at the same time, I know he's been married, he just got married a couple of years ago. Hey, here's 7 figures plus, and you work for a year, and then you ride off. I don't know.
And maybe he rides off to a multi-billion-dollar company that just got cock-blocked on acquiring a grading company and maybe needs to start one from scratch.
Nothing would be better than him going to Fanatics and starting up another grading division where he promises stuff that also doesn't come. It's like, we can have the Fanatics at registry, not going to happen. Podcast episode number 2, not going to happen. Still waiting. Someday.
Because that would be an interesting angle if he just walked out. He was like, okay, cool, I'm out. And then like Fanatics hired him to start up their grading division.
I think you still need some graders, to be honest. I still think you need a couple. Yeah, but honestly, if you throw enough money at them, I'm sure you could probably hire a bunch of the guys that are available there.
I mean, if he was a street free agent, I mean, Becket doesn't do anything, but imagine Becket bringing him in and saying like, hey, save us, or, something crazy like that. Not like Peter would lack for job opportunities if he did move away. But like we talked about earlier, I actually think if they legitimately want to keep this as its own separate company, Peter is even more important to that. He is more important tomorrow than today.
I agree.
He's the one that people believe in. Like, you know what I mean? Like that the people that love SGC, it's almost, you know, Peter is as much of that as SGC is, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah.
Well, as y'all said that this acquisition was Pete's way of getting the set registry, I was sitting here thinking, does this mean that, you know, PSA now has the top 2 highest sold cards in the hobby?
They have like the top 50 now. Sheesh.
Yeah, unless there's some random Becket Ultra, or, you know, some random.
I think the Steph Curry
Becket
was
thing.
Becket. That's sitting at like number 4, 3 or 4, something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
Yeah, like I'm just like thinking of the National. Like, are they going to have like these 2 separate massive booths like right next to each other at the National, a PSA and an SGC booth? Like, that's the weird stuff to me that doesn't make sense on the 2 separate companies. Like, that's where I'm just like, how is this going to work? And I get the comps for like the beer companies and all that other stuff, but it's just this is, I don't know, it's just weird. The whole thing's weird.
I would just love if they did some kind of a promotional video from the National when they're still trying to do that. And in every shot, Pete is wearing a different shirt. He's wearing an SGC shirt, a collector shirt, SGC shirt. You just keep cutting it, but you're going back and forth between the
You
two.
can mix in a gold, and you can mix in a card
Yeah,
ladder.
you
can mix in
just
a
keep
Wada.
swapping. It's like it's like you just use the editing so that it keeps being costume changes constantly.
How many patches is Dustin going to have to add to his racing jacket?
Listen, Dustin's like Mike down there. Sports Card Dad had a heart attack because he's got that SGC sponsorship, so he's thinking he's reading that contract real tight. This evening.
Please don't make that comparison. Good grief, clickbait nonsense. I like Dustin, but oh god. Can we get more videos about?
Can we
get more?
Clip that? Can we clip that? That was great.
Go ahead. Can we get more videos about Jeff Wilson's card shop? Like, is everybody just paid to make stupid videos? That's a totally different topic. But who cares?
No, please go on.
This guy has so much money, and it's not all just from his wife, by the way. Makes a ton of money in other ventures, opens a huge card shop. Everybody wants him to fail because they hate him, which is laughable anyways. Who cares? But the best way to make him fail, everybody makes 10,000 freaking YouTube videos about him. Who cares? Honestly. By the way, the card shop is phenomenal. I don't know if it's busy every day of the week. The pricing was great on wax and singles, and I'm not even a Jeff Wilson guy. What are we talking about? Like, the dumbest thing in the world. Neo, don't ever do any more videos on that, please. I don't ask a lot.
I don't think I've done that many on cards.
I know, and that's the only reason I actually speak to you, because it is laughable.
I was gonna say, I think I did maybe one, like when it was initial. I think maybe I've done 1 or 2, but they were like semi-legitimate. It wasn't just like,
dude, I hate the guy's content. I've always said that. He's been nothing but pleasant to me in person. I think that guy has more business savvy than almost everybody else in the hobby, myself included. Sorry. Do I think he sucked at buying cards during the peak? Of course, it was terrible. But we're worried about this guy's $3 million investment. I got news for you. People like that don't invest $3 million if it's going to fail in 6 months. I hate a lot of people, too. Doesn't mean they're all stupid. Like, there's so many dummies on YouTube. The YouTube crowd is so freaking wild, though. It's not even funny. Just so ridiculous. Like,
you tried it for a hot minute. You tried to join the dark side, and then you stopped.
I got so many stupid people reaching on DMs. I was like, you know what? I don't need this. I can't do it. I just watch Neo now. And I unsubscribe from everybody, too. I'm a much happier person. I think you're one of the last people we actually subscribe to.
The YouTube space is definitely a interesting.
Yeah,
and I don't. To be fair, I don't understand podcasts at all. I mean, I listen to them all the time. I have no idea how to start or grow one. Like, it just seems impossible.
See, but these are the stupid things I'm talking about. You notice in the chat, he's shilling for Jeff. I'm absolutely not. I hate everything about the guy's content and everything else. Those are just facts. That's not a shill, you dummies. Like, I know it's hard to get that through your head in the freaking basement you're living in. Don't care. Like, I don't like him. And if I wanted someone to fail miserably, which, trust me, the list of people I hate in this hobby and want to fail miserably is long. You know what I don't do? I don't talk about him every 5 seconds. Like, I don't know how this is so difficult. Oh, drives me nuts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys have talked about it on the podcast before. Like, at one point in time, you legitimately did not like Jeff. And then I think you had some in-person interactions with him and were like, oh, correct. Like, I kind of look at him a little bit differently now.
Yes. Nothing has changed about my take on his content. And I think he did a huge disservice to the hobby with the whole buy this, don't buy that. And I also think he's way too smart to think he didn't know the effects of that. But at some point, my question with everything is always, like, when is enough enough? 2 years ago, a guy was making videos to buy these 5 and then not. Okay, we crucified him for it, rightly so. Like, at what point is enough enough? Like a guy punches a guy in the face during an NBA game. He's suspended for 90 games. At what point, John Morant's flashing guns at everybody in sight? Makes him a terrible person. At what point are we past that, though? Like, I'm always curious about that. And yeah, and in person, he's been nice to almost everybody I meet in person is nice, though. Very rare people behind a camera or a microphone like me are mean in person. Almost never happens, which is probably a good thing. That was it. You can throw me off now. Just hit the X button.
No, we're fine. I didn't realize how late it was anyways, and I actually have to work a day job tomorrow.
Loser.
Well, I was like, oh, let me record like a real video for tomorrow. And in the middle of recording it, then Ravel's like, oh, both brands will live separately. And that completely broke my brain about like all the questions that I had. So I'm like, just screw it. I'm just going live.
You had a pretty good crowd, man. You had like 500 people at one point.
Yeah, we got close to 500. I don't think we clipped 500, but we got close to 500.
Sheesh.
So, all right. Any parting thoughts? We'll kind of wrap this thing up. I assume we're going to get a lot more information on this tomorrow, and then we can actually all form somewhat coherent takes on this. But
don't put that on us. Coherent takes? How dare you?
I don't know, Carlos. I like him. Oh, it's the second time he's made my laugh. I don't believe in sympathy laughter. That's the second time he's got a legit laugh out of me. Pretty good.
You would definitely enjoy Carlos's vibe on his content. I feel like you both have that. Carlos is very sarcastic, shall we say?
What are you talking about? I'm a man of peace. I believe I made this abundantly clear.
You know what, Carlos, third subscription, because I forgot I still subscribe to Dan the Card Man. Even though he totally came on my live and just cowered, I thought he was going to yell at me and get aggressive like he does, and just was super peaceful. That was irritating. So
yeah,
it's
I
Neo.
tuned into that, and I was expecting a lot better.
Let down, myself included. Neo, Dan, Carlos.
I was ready to make the reaction video to you two going to war.
I thought I could fight with him reasonably, and nothing. We were both just boring that night. That's it, Carlos the third. I'm literally going on now because I got to get my keyboard. Hang on a second. Here we go. I had the
The true winners here, as we discussed earlier, are content creators. We win on this.
Carlos is the winner. He just got to follow.
Mike and Jesse are going to have an amazing topics to talk about tomorrow. That'll probably be one of your most downloaded podcasts.
I don't know.
Do you deal with Brian, Mike?
Brian G over at SGC?
Yeah.
We do, yep.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll be busy as hell tomorrow. I
texted all those guys. No one has said a word, which is probably damn. Subscribe, by the way. Nailed it.
So Brandon, I'm gonna invite you to the live stream on Friday. Will that be enough time for you to get the full decked out collector's gear, or can they overnight it? Like, you know, we can probably get.
I pay for overnight shipping on all my orders.
Yeah,
so
we can probably get Nat Turner to ship it over. I think it'd be great.
Can you send him some PSA Canada stuff, Carlos?
I gotta get.
I might listen. I know a guy. I might have to reach out. I might have to reach out and be like, hey, Brad, we need to get this man some gear stat.
Hey, well, I did have Brad put the SGC logo on his shirt over the PSA logo that time, so I guess the
funny thing is, I still have a PSA Canada shirt. I still have one, even though they're like officially under collectors now. They were still a bulk submitter at the time, but I still have the damn shirt. I got the PSA Canada one. Don't worry about it.
You know what's funny too is I actually had DM'd Neo on Discord earlier today because there's a card show in Boca Raton. I think it's next month, and they're gonna have on site like Eric Drew's gonna be. I think he might actually be promoting the show, and I found it odd that in the submission room there was going to be the SGC submitter, and then he invited a PSA submitter. So
now they're the same thing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, how's that going to work now? So should be some interesting news.
All right, boys. Thanks for jumping on last minute, everybody. Chat, you were fantastic. We almost got close to 500 people in here simultaneously. That's a record by a million. So I'm sure more news and videos and content from all of us coming out tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week as we all get more information on this. Really, at this point, there's still so many unknowns. So check out Because I'm Carlos. He'll be live streaming on Friday, probably with Bobbles down below that. and then everybody should.
If he hasn't been put into a closet by that point, if he's still around, I'll do a wellness check between now and Friday to make sure he's still around.
Everybody go
Yeah,
post
now-
the sports card nonsense Facebook group about tag. And now they're the future.
And the past and the present.
All right, everybody. We will catch you boys and girls. Peace.
Say, bud.